Good afternoon, everybody. This is Terrence, Boykin, Zeke Farrington, and Donald Smith with your monthly Inside North Carolina Real Estate. And we've got a new face in the crowd today. He is a rookie on the video, not necessarily a rookie in real estate. We got Donald Smith with us today from Wilmington, North Carolina. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, Donald.
Well, I am born and raised right here in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm one of the few locals that have been here. I've lived here my whole life. Me and Terrence went to high school together. Uh, we have I've worked in law enforcement. I've sold real estate. I've been a pastor, so I've done a little bit of all of it. We've been in real estate since 2018. Started in 2018 with a big box firm. We went from there, moved ourselves into owning our own brokerage, and then we've kind of built a brokerage of about 14 to 15 agents. And then we've kind of downsized ourselves back into a two-person team back to where we started at, just to kind of clear all the riffraff around us away from it so we could just be focused. And so now we're just kind of back to doing real estate as a team instead of running it as a brokerage.
Donald, that's something I see with so many realtors that we get into the business and then we want to grow and grow and grow and start a team and all that good stuff. And then it seems like a lot of the realtors that have been around for a while realize that that smaller one or two agent is about the sweet spot.
It is, especially when you start looking at what your expenses are, right? For us, we went into our own brokerage because we didn't like the commission splits of what we were getting. I mean, we basically were giving our money away. So when we started counting the cost of what we were paying versus what we were getting and what we were using, we realized we're using all of our own systems anyway. We're not using anything from the big box brokerage other than their insurance and just really having a place to hang our license. So we did the numbers, pulled back, and said we can do this cheaper on our own and make more money. And we did probably for about the first 3 to 4 years. And then all of a sudden, when inflation started coming in and the cost of us being able to keep our tools up to date and be competitive with the big boxes got to a point that it was costing us more than what we would have been paying in commission splits. And then we just had to make a decision to go back to where the money was going to be at.
What are your thoughts on that, Zeke?
Yeah, I find it very ironic because I'm in a spot where I'm actually considering building a team. I tend to, fortunately or unfortunately for them, have agents who come to me on a regular basis for direction and one-on-one and things of that nature, and it's hard to turn away. One, because I think most of us like to feel needed, so it is nice to feel needed, and sometimes it takes away from what I need to get done for myself, so I kind of go back and forth with it. But then there are several agents just like Donald that had teams and then they've joined back down. Especially if you have a good client base of your own, you can tend to maybe lose a little focus, maybe not give the attention, to your own client base as you normally would, because you're dividing it up amongst, others that you're trying to help lead, train, etc. So hearing Donald's perspective is making me have second thoughts.
Don't second thought it. Don't let us discourage you. Make your plan and do it and live it.
Here's the one thing I'll tell you about it. And I didn't realize this at first because I'm always like, I pull for underdogs, right? And so I'm always about how can I help this person get to where they need to be at? And a lot of times in like the way that this industry runs is they'll bring a lot of agents in that have never done it. And then they let it wash themselves out. So out of 100 agents, you might end up with 2 or 3 that actually are viable and they produce. I went into this with the idea that, well, what about the other 97? If you can figure out how to get them locked in and hit their strengths, then they can be productive too. But what I found was the one common feature in an agent that is successful is that you have to be self-willed and determined, and you cannot teach or train that.
Right.
And so when we looked at what we were doing in our model, we didn't have enough of the cushions to be able to absorb the 97 that you have to pour into. And you've got all the fees that you have to pay for those folks.
Mhm.
Getting them situated with the right tools. You can teach them, like you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink.
That's
Right.
right.
And so when we got into that part of it, it was the technology resources that we were expending. But then my partner will tell you that the number of hours that she spent explaining basic things to these agents kept her from being able to handle our book of business.
Hmm.
And so we're actually losing a lot of money because we were focusing on making sure that they were able to get their one or two first deals up and moving, while our clients, they didn't necessarily fall off on the client part of it. We handled that well. But in the prospecting and procuring new business, we would get sidetracked dealing with everybody else's issues. And so eventually the pipelines began to run dry,
Hmm.
and then you're scurrying like everyone else. And for us, I think the decision has to be whether or not you're going to be in production or not. If you're
Right.
going to run a team, a large enough team to where you've got 4, 5, 6, 7 agents, you have to make the decision whether or not you're going to be in production or you're not going to be in production. And if you're
Right.
not going to be in production, that means you've got to take that 6 or 7 agents, you've got to drive that up to 15 to 20 agents to be able to offset your cost.
Right.
And if you're not willing to do that and get your hands out of the production part of it, then you really need to be back down to where you're 2 to 3 member teams with an
Right.
admin, because you'll lose a lot of money trying to get your 4 or 5 to produce. And you think about where your team splits are at, it would take you almost 5 to 6 of their deals to make up for one deal that you would do. And if they're not producing at that level, then all of a sudden you're back to eating potted meat and Vienna sausages.
That lets everybody out there watching this see that being a realtor in real estate isn't just about showing houses. It's not just about meeting at the dinner table. This truly is a business, and that gave you a quick under the hood view of what we're going through and how we're working to grow our businesses every day. Something a side of it that a lot of people really don't ever hear or even think is there. Now that we talked a little bit about working in the business, now let's talk about some real estate. Wanted to show everybody some of the neighborhoods that we're seeing across the state right now that we really like. I'll kick it off with, I've got clients that were referred to me moving to North Carolina from Connecticut, both retired, moving down here to be closer to kids. And they came down here. We found a neighborhood they love, Alton Fields in Dunn. Never would have thought about it before then, but this is a perfect little community built by Riverwild. I think there's about 22 homes in this community, all from a half acre to about 0.8 acres, priced 325 to 400. 1,800 square feet to 2,200 square feet. I really, really, really like the build of these houses. I like some of the amenities that they offer. With screen porch, they got 9-foot ceilings with a tray, tile master shower. Just a great, great neighborhood. So if you guys are thinking about Dunn, I tell you, it's about an hour from RDU, 45 minutes to Raleigh, 45 minutes to Fayetteville. That could be a very good option for you. So reach out to me on that. Z, what's your favorite neighborhood in Charlotte right now?
And I'll tell you what, the South End area. So rather than looking at a specific neighborhood, I can just tell you that the South End area of Charlotte is probably the hottest thing going right now. We have a bunch of young professionals here. Charlotte is a major draw for young professionals who are looking to start small businesses or they're just about to start their family. It's just a vibrant area with, 3-story townhomes, plenty of breweries, plenty of nightlife. The only thing I personally, because I'm an old fart, you know, I don't necessarily like fighting the parking there. It seems like everywhere over there you have to either pay for parking or you've got to walk a couple of blocks, to get some decent parking. But again, we're talking about the young people, the median age there is like 28 to 32. I don't know where they get the money to buy these places. I mean, I'm talking, townhomes in that area are 500K. I'm talking $500 a month HOAs, stuff like that. Even to rent, you're talking starting around the $2,000 a month mark. and that's starting, and that could still even be a studio or maybe a one bedroom for something decent. But the beauty of the area too, though, is once you do park or if you live there, you can just jump on the light rail. The light rail, I think it's about covers about 3.5 miles of the area, for which they can touch any and everything they want, whether it's going to Publix or Harris Teeter, hitting the bars, just participating overall in the nightlife. Even going uptown, they catch the light rail to uptown or what have you. So it's a really nice area, especially for the young. I like to call it the young pups. And
Got it.
my son, who's 24, I mean, he loves being over there. So that just lets you know. I mean, it's perfect, and he lives uptown, so it's perfect for him to just jump on the light rail and go back and forth. But that would definitely be an area if you're in that, say, 25 to 34 age range, that is the happening spot. And they're still building tons of construction that has always gone on, and practically any type of restaurant, including many high-end restaurants that are in that area too. I don't know. I just didn't grow up like them. So I'm like, okay, where do you find this money? Do money trees really grow money? That's what I want to know.
Hey, Charlotte is the banking capital of the state, so I guess they found that money somewhere.
I guess so, man. I guess so. Oh
Donald, what
man.
are you seeing in Wilmington?
Well, and when we look at Wilmington, we really looking at that three county, that tri-county, Pender, New Hanover, and Brunswick, because they all just kind of bleed in together. I am very frugal. And so when I start looking at properties and neighborhoods, I'm always looking for a deal. And right now, there is a little community that sits right outside of Wilmington on the Brunswick County side. It's called Navassa. Navassa has been this little small town that has been incorporated for almost 100 years, but they have almost zero commercial businesses there. Now, they have some industrial stuff, but zero commercial. But it is literally like 2 minutes away from Leland. It is about 30 minutes away from Wrightsville Beach because of the new I-140 bypass that they put in. And you can get from Navassa to Wrightsville Beach in less than 30 minutes. You can get from Navassa to Leland in less than 2 minutes, and you can get from Navassa to Wilmington in about 5 minutes. Now, when we start looking at that area, these developers have started to build through there. And there's just one neighborhood there that's really caught my eye. And a lot of it has to do with the incentives that they're offering and the amount of bang for your buck. It's Cider Hill Landing. It is a D.R. Horton neighborhood, but what you're getting from that, as far as the houses kind of offset some of let me say this about D.R. Horton and any of the other builders before I jump into the rest of it. Everybody looks at these builders and they see it from the headlines. What I'll tell you, and you'll hear me say this again when we start getting into buyer tips, it's not the developer that you should be looking for. It's going to be that construction superintendent that's working that community, because the construction superintendent is the one that is going to make things move like it's supposed to, make sure work's completed. And you really want to find somebody that values their name. And if you get the construction superintendent that values their name and their attention to detail, it doesn't matter who the developer is. You're going to walk out with a good product. And so this particular neighborhood has a great superintendent that's there. They've got some great sales agents that are working for D.R. Horton. And this neighborhood starts about 320,000 for about a 1,400 square foot starter home. And it runs all the way up to about 430,000 on the top end of it. But you can get a 25 to 2,700 square foot house for less than $375,000. HOA fees are under $1,000 per year. You've got a clubhouse, you've got fitness centers, you've got amenities, you've got walking trails. It has everything that the high-end neighborhoods have at an economical price. The best part of it is that they're still in phases 1 and 2. And if you're looking to buy your first home, or you're looking to leverage in a strategic step up, You want to be in those first couple of phases because every phase, the price points go up and up and up. So you're getting built-in equity. You take the built-in equity on top of the incentives that they're throwing. So they're throwing somewhere between 10 to 15,000 closing costs to be able to use the buy down rates, to be able to upgrade the amenities or the amenities inside of the house. But the big kicker is the buyer agent commission. They are going through these phases as they overbuild that they're actually offering up to 6% buyer agent commission. Now, this is where it comes into who your realtor is. The way that we do it is if we put on our buyer agent agreement that we're going to do 3%, we won't take anything over it. And I'll figure out. So if they're offering 4, 5, or 6% and we've agreed to 3%, I'm going to figure out how to get that other 3% into my client's pocket. And DR Horton, you have to ask permission to do this, but they will do it. And they'll let you take the additional commission and roll it over into buyer credits for your client that they can use to continue to upgrade or to pay down those closing costs. So when you throw in the 10 to 15,000 that the builder's giving, the additional buyer agent commission that the agent can pull back into it, and then the amount of house that you're getting, it becomes a great deal, especially if you can get in phases 1 and 2 to be able to leverage yourself 7 years from now to be able to take that step up and to be able to get into your dream home that you're going to live the rest of your life in.
That does go a long way, Donald. And there is a lot of money even at Riverwild, Alton Fields, where I just got those clients under contract. They're offering the $10,000 to $15,000 in closing costs and the great interest rate. And we were able to negotiate a lot of things that, and like you said, it depends on the realtor you're working with. Some know what to negotiate for and how to use money and where money can be placed, and others don't. So just as that construction superintendent you need that has some experience, you also want that realtor to have some experience. I like that. Yep. So you guys are looking at any of those neighborhoods in the areas, please give us a call. Let us know what you about to say, Zeke.
Yeah, I was going to say too that when looking for an agent, I mean, Donald he nailed it. You know, we're in the relationship business, right? So many look at us as salespeople at the end of the day, but depending on who your agent is, he or she is going to look at it as a relationship. That's what keeps us in the business long. We're dedicated to it, and like Donald, as an example, willing to utilize that extra commission, right, to take care of your client, that goes a long way. And that shows that we're trying to build a relationship. We want to be able to come to your barbecue. We want to come to Thanksgiving dinner. We want to take care of your parents when they're downsizing, your kids when they're buying their first home. And so when you're doing things like what Donald is doing, I would encourage everyone out there to look for an agent who actually values relationships, not just a transaction. So,
And I'm going to come in now with my broker in charge disclaimer moment. There are no standard compensations when it comes to real estate across the country. And from now on these talks, we will use the word compensation and not commission because NAR told us that that's what we have to say from now on. Now let's talk a little bit more about tactics for buyers. Donald, you mentioned around new construction. It's not just the builder, it is that construction supervisor, because that's the person that's there day in, day out, knows every bit of that floor plan, what can be changed, what can be tweaked. One of the things I recommend with my clients around that construction superintendent, as soon as I find out who they are, I link them, I give them my buyer's information and let my buyers know, hey, it may look just like dirt right now, but especially once we get that framing up, it's not a bad idea for you guys to come out here and visit every weekend and let me know so that I can let the construction manager know, so we can all be in communication so that they can talk, they can ask questions. Is that the kind of thing you recommend?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to do it. I will say that you to make sure that you're connecting with the construction superintendent and getting permission before you do it, because inside of those new construction contracts, oftentimes they put in there that you're not allowed on the site and you have to make sure that you get permission to do it, or it could put you in breach of the contract. And When you get to points where you've gotten a really good deal and the market shifts, they're looking for whatever ways they can to get out of that contract. So playing by their rules will make it a smooth process and guarantee that you get the property that you said that you wanted at the price that you agreed to get it at. The other part of that with using your agent is that you get to leverage the agent's experience and their contacts and their connections. Here's what I can tell you that we've seen happen with new construction is that we've gone into new construction where the floors weren't exactly right. The buyer goes in and they don't really pay attention to it because they're getting eyes and they're not seeing everything. And we went in and we saw where the floors weren't exactly right. Well, when the buyer says something to the builder about it, they didn't want to do anything specific about it until we got involved. And once we stepped into it, because we do a certain number of deals with that builder in those neighborhoods, they were willing to listen to us a lot quicker than they were the buyer because they didn't want to bite the hand that fed them either. So it took one phone conversation with the superintendent of me calling them for them to go in and pull all the floors back out and redo them because they know that if they didn't handle this one correctly, then their business coming from us in future deals was going to be minimized. So we get to leverage our deals, our past deals, our future deals to help our current client. Whereas if you go into new construction and you don't have an agent representing you, then you are one and done and they see you as a single purchase, a single transaction, whereas they look at the buyer agent as being multiple transactions and there's leverage that comes with that.
We've been talking new construction a bit. What tips do you guys have for buyers looking at resales?
Even with the resales, like there are some that are less than a year old, right? That still need an inspection. I'm under contract on one right now, whereas it's less than a year old. We found several things that are issues. Now the good side of it is it's still warranted, right? But the seller was not, you know, paying attention to the warranty or looking or understanding that he can actually have some of those items fixed under warranty. So we immediately said, hey, you know, there was some pushback. We immediately said, hey, well, it should still be under warranty. So there's no reason you can't get these things taken care of for us. Now, will the warranty transfer? Yes, it will, but you still own the property right now, right? So I would say to definitely get an inspection. It doesn't matter how old or new that resale property is.
Yep. You hear this again, and a lot of these buyers they'll ask our opinion on vendors to do inspections. And what I will typically tell my clients, and I'll tell other folks that are in looking to buy, is you really need to trust your realtor and their list of preferred vendors on it because they have working relationships with them. We know exactly what our inspector's looking for. We kind of are in his mind the same way he's in our head, and he knows what we're looking for. And sometimes if you have an inspector that you've never worked with before, you'll come up with this huge list of items and it's random all over the bill. We've actually had some inspectors that blew up some deals for us because they were trying to put everything that they could possibly find and exaggerating it, trying to justify the cost they were being paid for it. And it ends up blowing up deals that don't need to be blown up. But when you use the agent's preferred inspector, the inspector knows exactly what the agent's looking for to be able to take care of their client. And sometimes having that interaction or that relationship is much more valuable than just going and picking a random inspector that you got off of a list.
Yeah, I agree with you guys on the inspections, and also something a lot of you buyers probably don't know, but working with an experienced agent like one of the three of us, we would educate you on. There's a term called material facts. And a material fact is something that you as an ordinary buyer might not see or realize during a showing that would actually affect your desire to buy that house. And oftentimes as agents, we're looking for those things, the cracks in the foundation, the standing water. We're also doing searches on that house to see if that seller did pull a permit, say for septic a year or two ago. that's something that means they knew there was something going on. Now, your average agent may not have the wherewithal to do those things, but that's something that we can and will do for you as a buyer when you're looking at houses.
That's
Let's
right.
flip it a little bit now, guys, for sellers. What are you seeing right now? Last quarter this year, I know in my market, homes have been sitting a little bit longer, and we've been talking a lot about new construction on this call today. What, one or two tips can you give that seller to make sure they get the best impact they can that first week they're on the market?
I can say the seller should really consider pricing. And what do I mean by that? I have run into several who think that we're still in this post COVID era where, you know, they get, 20 offers and their home goes for $40,000 more than list, things of that nature. Whereas, I try to educate them now that now we're actually back to what might have been considered normal before COVID, right? Pre-COVID. So homes are sitting longer now. At least here in Charlotte, they're sitting about 40% longer than in the past, right? So what does that mean? It means we need to price that home correctly from the jump. Now, do we get it right every time? Can the home still sit? Of course it can, but as opposed to thinking aggressively, we should probably be looking aggressive from the standpoint of I want to sell my home, right? And at the end of the day, I think a home is worth what someone is willing to pay, So, but we find many right now that needs to sell their home in order to move into the other home that we may have gone under contract on or what have you. So I like to ask my sellers, what's your biggest fear? That your home sits on the market for 90 days and then you get a lowball offer? Or is it that maybe we go under contract or we get a great offer the first weekend and you think, oh well, I'm leaving money on the table? Which is your biggest fear? And most of them will say, well, I don't want my home sitting 90 days, 100 days. Okay, then we need to be aggressive in how we're pricing the home, not trying to knock it out of the park, but to move the home. And if it goes into multiple offers, we get you another $5,000, $10,000 or whatever over list at that point, then great. But that's pretty much where I am.
Yeah. I'm seeing right now kind of that same thing with pricing where we need to be really factoring in about 1 to 2% of upgrade fee. So if your house, you think you're going to sell your house for 400,000, go ahead and plan on about 8,000, $8,000 to $10,000 worth of upgrades from paint to landscaping to get that house looking as best you can to make that impression. So that's what I'm seeing a lot because in 2020, 2023, you didn't have to do any of that stuff. All you had to do was list the house and it sold. Now we've got people coming to that house. I think here in Raleigh, we're averaged something like 13 showings before going under contract. So you got a lot of eyes getting into that resale, and you need to have it looking as best and present as best as it can.
Yeah.
How about you, Don?
I think the pricing point, just to speak off of that, is important. And I'll tell you that we end up with a lot of sellers that will try to price their home where they come in with the presupposition of what their house is worth because they saw it on Zillow and they saw the Zestimate price, and they don't realize that the A in Zillow stands for accuracy. And by the time they get to we come in and share the numbers after we've ran the market on it and trying to push to the top end of it. And we'll tell our sellers this all the time. I'm not going to give you some big number so that we can just do a lot of price reductions. We're going to try to come in with the number that we think we can hold and we can get it sold for in short order without doing any reductions off of it. And the range may be from 350 to 375, and you may hear us say we want to be at 360. That's our sweet spot with this. Well, the reason is that we'd rather sit the house at what we would call market neutral and then let the market either drive it up or drive it down instead of going well above the market and having to do price reductions. One thing I can tell you that happens when you start with the price reductions is if you make a major price reduction, the wolves are coming every single time. And the mentality is that we're going to negotiate ourselves down. We like to negotiate to where we're at. And when you start taking reductions, you're going to eventually fall well below where you wanted to be at than you would have if we'd have started in the middle and been able to justify and hold our price point and been able to stand on it. So we like to tell our sellers, look, we've got to price it in the middle of the market. Now, when we price it in the middle market, there's a lot of times that we're going to go above the market because we're going to have enough interest in it. We're going to have enough demand that we're going to get those multiple offers, and then we're going to be able to start negotiating and working our way up. But if you don't have buyers coming to look at it because you've priced it out of the range, then you have nowhere to go but down. And we've seen this play out multiple times when people don't listen to us on the pricing. They end up falling $10 to $15 to $20,000 below where they wanted to be at, and they're taking numbers that they would have never thought in a million years they would have taken because they get beat down, worn down, and frustrated with it. But when we price the property in the center of the market, 9 times out of 10, we're going to be at list price when we go under contract, or we're going to be above list price when we go into contract because the agent on the other side of it also knows where that market is, and they know whether or not it's a good deal, and they're going to bring their buyers, and they're going to have an urgency about them when they go to put that offer in. Pricing is a huge part of making sure that you get that piece of it right.
I agree with both you guys on that. All you sellers out there, potential sellers out there, I know you love your home, and I know your house is the best house on your street and the best house in your community. But if you're putting this house on the market, you gotta be realistic. You have to be realistic on that pricing.
Terrence,
Go ahead.
when you're in a listing, do you bring out and show them the net sheets with options?
Yeah. Well, I do. We do show net sheet with pricing options and concession options.
Yes. So like you'll have a low, middle, and high, and
Yeah.
this is what you got to do to get to each one of them. And I will tell you, I think when somebody is interviewing agents to sell their house, and I tell my family this, I tell my friends this, I tell my past clients this, you need to interview at least 3 of us. We've done business before, still interview 3 of us. I feel comfortable enough knowing that we've got a strong enough marketing plan that we're going to win the day, but your client needs to be able to get at least 3 different opinions on it and approaches to how they're going to do it. And one of the things that I also will tell them is don't look for who says they're going to sell the house for the most money. Look for the agent that's got the most aggressive marketing strategy and that they're a strong negotiator. And if they can't negotiate to you in a listing presentation, they're not going to negotiate on your behalf once we get to where we're negotiating contracts and pricing. So I would say you need to pull 3 agents in, listen to how they're going to do it, pick the one that's got the best marketing strategy, that's the best negotiator in it. And for whatever you do, stay away from the one that is so far out of the range because it becomes cotton candy. It looks good. It feels good. It's going to taste good, but it's going to dissolve away and just leave you with a cavity at the end of the day, and you're going to be frustrated with it.
Yeah. And I want to say on that, and don't just go with that agent that you go to church with or that you work with or is your cousin. If you want to be nice to somebody, take them to a nice dinner, take them to Ruth's Chris, take them to Angus Barn, but don't trust them with the biggest financial decision of your life and that money that's really going to make a difference to you. That's where you have to interview those agents from outside your circle. Yep. Yep. Closing out here, guys, I want to take a few questions from our last video that came in. The first one was, since we're here in North Carolina, can you help me buy in one city and sell in the other?
Of course. And that's why we have relationships, right? It's not just between client and agent, it's agent to agent. I like to say that ultimately we as agents, we're on the same team as well, right? So if I have someone here in Charlotte that's looking to get to the beach, or maybe they're not looking to sell their home here, but they want a beach home, then I should be able to reach out to Donald, right? And trust that he's going to take care of my client and helping them to secure, their dream beach home or what have you. Or, if, there's a child, who's wants to be in the Triangle area, I should be able to reach out to Terrence and say, hey, this is my client's son. This is my client's son and his wife. They're looking to get their first home, and they love to be in there into the Triangle for the arts and the museums and things of that nature, right? So we can definitely help you, whether it's regardless of where it is. We have relationships all over the place.
I'm gonna take the second one that came in. If I plan this is for someone that I guess they're out of state. How long should I plan for a tour trip? And I'm assuming that's meaning how long should I come into, say, Raleigh to look at neighborhoods, to look at houses, to get a feel for the area? I say anywhere from 3 days to a week or two, depending on how much time you have and what you can do. Minimum 3 days. And if you're going to do something like that, pick out 3 different areas and the houses that you like, and really spend that first day just riding around, getting a feel for the area, and then going to look at some houses. If you can stretch it out, the more you can stretch it out, the better, because that way you can narrow it down to your top 1 or 2 neighborhoods. Then look at traffic flows in the evening, traffic flows in the morning, look at what shops are there, what grocery stores are there. So I say anywhere from 3 days to about a week or two planning a trip. And Donald, this one is good for you, especially we're recording this one right now during hurricane season and just had a nor'easter go through. Do I always need flood insurance at the beach?
Yes. Look, we get asked the question all the time, are we in a flood zone? And I tell people all of southeastern North Carolina is in a flood zone. We are all susceptible to being flooded when you live on the coast. I will tell you this, when you start looking at where you're going to be living at, everybody thinks that you need to be far away from the beach. And I'm going to tell you that that's not necessarily the case. When it comes to flooding, the closer you are to the beach, the shorter the duration of the flooding lasts. The further you get inland, the longer the flooding lasts and the more damage that is done. So when you are close to the beach, and I say 4 or 5 miles right in that area, the water's coming in, it's going right back out because it has a larger path of egress. When we get up into the inland areas and you're close to rivers, those rivers don't have anywhere to flow back out of. And so when the rivers overflow, it sits for days, weeks, and months. Whereas being right on the coastline, it comes in and it goes right back out. One of the tricks on getting the flood insurance is making sure you have the elevation certificates that demonstrate how high the property is, because it will bring those rates back down. But the big catch here is making sure that you're not close to a river or to a riverbed that it's going to flood out into.
So guys, we're going to make like the tide and roll out. That was my best dad joke, by the way. This is the end of the video. If you have any questions about real estate in North Carolina, please reach out to us. Donald, how can they best reach out to you?
Hey, it's easiest just to give me a call, send me a text message, 910-409-0865, or shoot me an email, or me and my partner will respond back to you. It's sold@brokersmithnc.com.
Oh, yes. Definitely text me or call me. I do check my emails, but we never leave home without our cell phones, right? And if we do, we immediately turn around and go back and get them. So it's like leaving without our shirt or something. So 704-779-1292. 779-1292. Text or call me. If I don't answer right away, I will call you back within 60 minutes.
I don't know if I'll call you back in 60 minutes or not, but I will call you back. I'm at 919-675-9967, and you can find me at thattallagent.com. Thank you guys for joining us today, and we'll see you next month.